Hello, one and all, and welcome back to League of Europe Season 7. This is the Championship finale for Season 7 in Division 2. We are, of course, racing at, well, the scene of now many Championship finales throughout Formula 1 in history, all etched in time, and we're going to add another to the list tonight. It is Division 2 finale time. We have a three-pronged title fight, all three drivers locked in, ready to go racing. We are slightly delayed tonight in terms of getting the lobby set up. That is why we are, of course, about 10 minutes late with the stream, but we should get things going as per normal soon enough. So, to take you through the action tonight, it is myself, Daka, and I'm glad to report he didn't quite make it last week, but he is back. It is Mr. QVR Verstappen. Verstappen, how are you doing, my friend?
Hello everyone, and yes, I am back here, League of Europe Division 2, the finale, and I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this a lot. As you said, three contenders still in the race for it, and it should be an exciting one.
Yeah, those three contenders, you guys all know them by now, namely Carmentalist, Timon, Larkin. They are in that order in the Drivers' Championship as it stands. Carmentalist leads. He has led for the majority of the season, and has just managed to eke back in front the last few rounds. He leads on 148 points. Trailing him is Timon on 143, 5 behind, and then his teammate Larkin, who we saw get involved in that incident in Interlagos, which set him back. Both he and Timon were fighting for the win throughout most of that race. They ended up losing a lot of points to a struggling Carmentalist. Larkin on 138 points, 5 points off his teammate, 10 points off the championship lead. Here we go into now Abu Dhabi, a track which, as is the case most of the way throughout the season, has vastly different skill sets required to be great here than the last race we had at Interlagos. So what can we expect here tonight?
I could definitely expect a few crashes here and there. I think it is a very unforgiving track, especially on this game. The curbs are very ruthless all around the track, and the last sector is just so difficult to get right, and we'll get back to that when we get on track later. And obviously we hope the title contenders can make it an exciting one, but it will be difficult for all of them to qualify high up and make sure they get their strategy right as well.
Yeah, of course, and well, we've seen, of course, these three, they've been head and shoulders above the rest throughout this season, but on average, but that doesn't mean to say that they've dominated. Between them all, they've won 4 out of the 16 races, which for championship contenders, obviously, not many at all. In fact, Timon has won 3 races, Carmentalist has won 1. Larkin, who goes into this race with a very good shot at the championship, has still not won a single race this season. He has 4 second place finishes, no wins. Carmentalist only has 4 podiums throughout the entire season. I mean, this is one of the strangest title races I've seen, but of course, it's one that's going to go down to the wire regardless. So 10 points covering 3 drivers. We are 1 driver short of our full grid, but thankfully we do have a few more than what we've seen in the last couple of rounds, particularly that race at Canada, of course. So we'll see how it goes as we load into it. Abu Dhabi, 18-minute qualifying session. You know how it runs by now. We will see how that session is going to unfold. And we come for looking at the strategy here, just looking forward, qualifying, of course, leading into that race later on. Strategy, you'd say, is about what you'd expect for most tracks on this game. For those championship contenders in particular, how do you think they're going to approach it?
Well, definitely, as you said, the strategy, it is quite usual to do a one-stop here, but the tyres do fall off a lot, and that could open up an opportunity, potentially with a VSC in help or whatever, for a potential 2-stop. And if you can cut through the traffic and have a lot of pace, you can make your way through that way as well. Be interesting to see. And yeah, as I said, the usual side is soft medium, but you could see a soft medium medium or a soft medium soft even if you want to get out of the traffic as well.
Yes, so a couple of different strategies you can run in the race. If any of the championship contenders get in an unusual circumstance early in the race, they could throw in that wild card in terms of strategy. We will see safety cars. It's Division 2 with 19 drivers. That can always come into effect as well. We are now starting to get going. Of course, the 3 men we've got to be keeping our eye on, of course, Timon, Larkin, Carmentalist. Those guys, we'll see them going throughout this session. Of course, when we look at how they do in these qualifying sessions, Timon, one of the top qualifiers on the grid. Larkin, fairly inconsistent between tracks. Sometimes he can be in the fight, sometimes he can be quite far off. And Carmentalist, rarely a top 10 man in qualifying. So, very different expectations typically of all these drivers in terms of how they're going to perform in this session. But nothing really matters until now in terms of how they've done in the past. But of course, Timon is the one that you're usually looking at to perform well in these sessions.
Definitely, he's been on there in qualifying every single session, and it's very impressive to see. He sometimes has trouble to finish it off in the race. It'll be interesting to see if he can maybe manage that a bit better. As you said, Larkin, it's a bit of a gamble here and there. You never know if he's going to be right there or not. But he's always very consistent in the races. He'll be there. And I think this is a track that does suit Carmental. He does like it, I think. So, who knows, maybe we could see a surprise and he'll be right up there in the qualifying as well. And yeah, it just makes for such an interesting dynamic and interesting race up ahead of us.
Yeah, it certainly does. We will see how that is going to unfold. Those guys now pretty much all out on track at this early phase in the session of the championship contenders. You can see the tyres that they've selected. Timon and Carmentalist opting for mediums in the first runs. Larkin getting straight in there, going for the softs. Of course, we do see drivers typically liking to get on that medium set early and getting that lap time in as it stands. XL Zoudema is going to be the first one over the line to get things kicked off in the Red Bull. Not a qualifying specialist, but we'll see how he gets on. Using that curb to turn it in to turn number one. Hooking it in nicely, using as much of the track as you can to the exit. And then you are all flat out down the hill through turn number 3, then keeping it nicely within track limits up towards the end of the first sector onto the bricks. 17.1 I think is a very good time for the first sector, but he's a bit scruffy, a bit offline, heading through that chicane, getting himself on to those bricks, punching out of the hairpin, and then you have got a full kilometre long back straight heading all the way down to the chicane. This is of course one of the most, well, probably the most prolific overtaking spot on the entire track. You're onto the brakes and you're heading into the first of 2 chicanes. That's turns 8 and 9. Punching out of the exit then. DRS is going to be active for the second time on this lap as you head up towards turn 11. And of course, if you get past that first chicane, this second chicane presents another opportunity for the car behind to get back through with DRS. Very awkward part of the track here. Zoudema taking quite a lot of curb, heading through 11, 12, 13 and now 14. Runs way, keeps it just about within track bounds. He now heads up around turns 15, 16 and then a tough braking zone into turn 17. Big stop, third gear, holding at third gear all the way around now as you head underneath the hotel. Hits the curb awkwardly, heading through turn 18 there. Now he's onto the throttle and now he's looking at the end of this lap. Fairly hesitant through the end of the lap, and I think he is actually going to back off that one. So Zoudema diving to the pit lane early. So we'll see if anyone else can actually get a proper lap time on the board. Coxey's actually gone out there, and Coxey, who was actually favoured to do quite well here. I'm not sure if he actually... no, actually, now that I think about it, I think he had a quality band to serve, so that makes perfect sense why he is going out. XL Jaco gets things kicked off with a 135.4 on medium, so we'll see what the rest of the drivers are able to do to match that. Hardy's dive into the pit lane at this early phase, and we've got a, well, I believe certainly a driver I've not seen before, Paha Pirka, I think we're going to say that. Creco goes fastest though, 34.7. That's a solid lap for Emily Creco as the Ferrari goes spearing off the road, and the second AlphaTauri goes second. So these early lap times going in, fairly cagey start though to the session. A lot of drivers going off, and of course, everyone, it's not just the championship contenders, everyone wants to end their season on a high. Slash goes fastest, but certainly it's very nervy out there.
Yeah, definitely a track he can easily invalidate and easily spin at. So there's a lot of mistakes there. So Timon sets his first lap 35.3 on mediums, half a tenth quicker than Jaco. Ben JS goes into third. The times on mediums from Timon and Jaco are both very solid times, and they'll be near the top on the softs as well, I reckon, as Funky Chicken sets in a time that's about 4/10 slower than his teammates. Not all too bad. I'll have to see how that develops on. Gary's coming towards the end of his lap. For the final corner, you want to use the curb on the exit. Across the line he goes, just about goes quick in a slash. 11,000 between them.
Gary, of course, another driver that you expect to be up there in these qualifying sessions. Jaco was actually up in the second sector on his medium lap, does dive to the pit lane. There was a McLaren over the line, that's XL Sully. He backed off his first one. Of course, Sully has been, well, very dominant in all the races he's done as a reserve. And Nathan JB crosses the line, not a representative time. So it is nervy out there. Carmentalist is invalid. He dives to the pit lane. Larkin has only just got one kicked off. So we'll see what the championship contender could do. Larkin coming over the line. No time on the board. Let's see what he can do as he comes over the line to get things kicked off.
Coming down towards turn 1, very difficult braking zone. You have to hit the curb nicely there and not go too much, because being out easily. This is easily flat and quali. In the race we might see some more struggles there. So he does get a bit out of shape through the middle of turn 3. Now down towards turn 5 and 6. Very difficult, flying it in. Don't want to hit the curbs too much, you can unsettle the car a lot. And out through turn number 7, difficult important traction zone, obviously with the kilometer long straight. And now here, DRS will be open and we'll be going up towards the chicane of turn 8 and 9, obviously the most obvious overtaking spot. It's not easy to go side by side there either. Now braking around the 100 meter board, down into second gear, nicely turned in. There's Larkin, bit scruffy for 9, gets wide on the exit, but gets it down nicely. DRS open once again. There's a bit of yellow flags up ahead. No big worries there though. And now down towards sector 2 split. 57.7 says it's purple. Not sure if that is. We'll have to see. Now through 11, 12 and 13. Quickly filing through. Now down towards 14. Difficult corner once again as the front tyres will be screaming at this point already. And we've still got a couple more corners to go. Down towards turn 17. Big braking zone. Nicely done though by the Alfa Romeo. Double lefts coming up under the hotel we go. Through turn 19. Difficult traction zone. Latifi been in here in real life obviously last year, and now down towards the last one is just about to validate on the inside. He has to go back in the pits and try again.
Yes, straight, no hesitation to the pit lane after that invalidation then for Larkin. So Will Timon has done a solid lap on the mediums. Apart from that, the other title contenders not getting one on the board early, so they're going to have to look to try and find more improvements later on in these sessions. So we'll see how those guys can get on. Matt Tibos, I believe, who tends to run fairly out of sync in these sessions, is doing so yet again as it stands. Currently not a representative time, so we'll see what Matt Tibos can do. Of course, somehow he has a race victory in this season using a lot of the track, heading towards turn number 19, just about apparently within track limits. Now sweeping through turn 20, uses a lot of track there as well, using that curb on the exit. Matt Tibos is around the final corner coming up to the line. It goes 7th, 1:35.3 is the time. So that's pretty much the first runs done. Again, a lot of lap times not quite working out, so it is nervy out there. Gary at the moment with that provisional pole time, but clearly on those first runs out the championship contenders, not much to report.
Yeah, not a lot. I think Timon must have had the best feeling so far. He's the only one that's even set a time. Now looking at Sodoma, who's just about started the second run, and he's getting some slipstream from his teammate XO Gary here down towards turn 8 and 9. That will help a lot here. Straight line speed will be going to about 322 kilometers an hour. Brakes nicely down into turn 8. Gets it stopped and through turn 9. Don't want to touch that curb too much on the inside. It can really unsettle the car. I've experienced myself as well. Now down towards turn 11 we go. And let's see if he's on par, maybe for a good time. 57.5, that looks pretty good. It was a bit quicker than Larkin was doing. Gets a bit out of shape over the curb off turn 11 though. You have to recover and see if he can get some time back. And he tends to go a lot over the curbs here. It's not the best thing to do, but the lap time seems to be decent so far. I have to see, coming through 17 and 18, opens up quite a lot for 18. And then for 19, stays away from that curb and runs that wide all the way to the wall. And again, here on the entry, you want to do that as well. Don't want to get too far over that orange sausage curb. Can set you off into the wall as well. Across the line, Axel Zedemak goes, and he goes into P5.
I tell you what, for someone that I consider to be the smoothest driver on the grid, that was a very, well, hard lap, you've got to say, from Zerma, really throwing the car around everywhere at that early stage in the session. So we're seeing most guys now on outlaps. There was a car that's going very slowly on an outlap, just letting drivers through at the end of the lap. So we'll see what the rest of the grid has to offer. Who's going to be the first along? Emily Creco, I've seen in the AlphaTauri is quite far along. There may be some drivers that are further along. He's actually backed off that
Mentalist.
one, though. And who was that?
Carmentalist, he's on the lap, I think, coming down towards turn number 17. Let's see if this is going to be a good time for 18 and 19. This looks fairly clean. Carmentalist obviously one of the cleanest drivers on the grid, I'd say. And now down towards 20. Oh, risk there taken. He spins around, keeps it at the wall. Luckily for him, that's not how you want to end off your lap.
Now, I watched Division 1 earlier, and that was looking eerily similar to when Justas went off in qualifying. Now, of course, Justas managed to recover and actually win the championship in the race, but that must have been a heart-and-mouth moment for Carmentalist. And even though he spun the car, he did very well not to end up in a worse position than he was, because, well, that could have very easily ended an absolute disaster for the Alpine driver. Timon's lap is invalidated at this stage, so he won't be improving currently. Gary is quite far on a lap, as is one of the Aston Martins. That's going to be CB's just starting a flying lap. Gary is again on that sausage curve, keeps it nicely though, pointed in the right direction in through turn 21, and he is going to improve marginally to a 134.689. So that is what Carmentalist has on the board. Larkin now progressing behind. He's just gone past his teammates. So I wonder if there was any interference like Larkin was claiming there was back in Interlagos between the two teammates. Of course, they've been at each other's throats in these last few rounds, battling hard out on track, and Larkin goes fastest, 134.6. That's a very, very important lap from Larkin when you consider with less than 6 minutes to go. Carmentalist still isn't established in this session. Timon, although he did do a very fast medium lap, still hasn't got one in on the soft. So for Larkin to get that lap time in, the driver that is probably least favoured for this track, in theory anyways, Nathan JB goes start good lap 134.7, but for Larkin to get that lap in, very important, and the other two have a lot more pressure on these shoulders heading into these final 5 minutes.
Yeah, as you said, Larkin has that bank lap as the screen comes across the line and goes into P5. Yeah, Larkin has that lap, and he can push his final run a little bit more than the other two who don't have that representative lap time just yet. And that might hurt him in the long run a little bit. Jake will just come across the line, barely even improved on his medium run earlier, only about a 10th quicker. Let's see if he can improve later on in the session. I just seen Slash going around to the final corner. It's important to see Seep is coming around, and he's put it on pole. 3 tenths ahead of Larkin. What a lap!
I was looking at his middle sec time and I thought, wow, this man's on a flyer, and he certainly was. I mean, Seep, since he came into the league 5 rounds ago, he has consistently lit the timing sheets alight in these qualifying sessions. His results in the race have been rather subpar. He still has yet to have a top 5, but in qualifying, wow, this man can pull some miracles out of the bag here in these sections, and he's proving it there with a comfortable pole position. That may be enough for pole position, but I imagine he's going to try and go out at the end of the session anyway, so we'll see what he could do. But yeah, to put that lap in over nearly 3 tenths clear of anyone else in a session that still, for a lot of drivers, hasn't really got going yet. We'll see how those guys are able to get themselves going and improve, but Seb, that is a stonking lap, and I think everyone has just looked at that, maybe gulping. Does anyone have the pace in hand to beat that? We'll see.
I have to see indeed. Obviously, a lot of guys still not having a representative lap, so you never really know what to expect either. Just running on board with my tips, but he just about invalidates through the triple chicane of turn 12. Then he just about cut the inside a little bit too much. It's unfortunate to see. About 3 minutes ago. Can't really see it's a yellow flags at the moment, but we'll have to see if anyone can improve.
Yeah, we will have to see indeed. We're starting to get that last flurry of times just about to come in. Namely, XL Hardy is going to be the first one over the line, I believe. So he is now getting his final runs. Potentially he's got 2 runs in that. He runs very wide though heading through turn 1. Manages to keep it on track with a little bit of oversteer. And now he is powering on. So Seb at the moment fastest then, as we said. Hardy to the first sector. It's only 17.3. We could see that how much that mistake cost him. But he's very heavy on the curb. Heading through turns 4 and 5. He's still keeping it going, but this is very, very scrappy for the former championship contender in Division 2 way back in Season 4. He was right up there fighting for the title. Of course, this season hasn't quite turned out the way that he was looking for. Hardy, full-time driver. We haven't seen much of him throughout this season. He has missed a lot of races. Hasn't finished many. He currently has 11 points in the championship, the lowest out of any full-time driver. So we'll see what he can do now on this flying lap. He is still pushing, he is still going at it then, but the second sector, yeah, is some way off the pace. 58.1 is that time, with a few mistakes throughout the lap still going on though. We'll have a look. Zaunema and Paja Perka are on laps at the moment just behind him then, so we'll see what those guys are able to do as well. 2 minutes to go in the session and just about everyone is going out then, and yeah, pressure on Carmenslist and Timon. Larkin will be happy enough with his lap. Slash has gone out, and I think that's in the pit lane, probably realising he hasn't got quite enough time. Hardy heading around turn 20, keeps it nicely within track limits. Don't think it's been the best of laps though for Hardy. Runs a bit wide to the final corner, comes over the line 15th, 135.5. Timon has just got a lap time kicked off. Zaudema has backed off invalid, so we'll see what he can do further down the line. Pad Perka is furthest along then, so Sebald pole, 1.5 minutes to go. The Ferrari comes into the final sector fairly quick, 57.5. That's a good time for those first two sectors.
Yeah, it's a very solid time so far. As he get a bit out of shape out of turn 13, going over the curb a bit too much. Looks nicely through turn 14 though, and seems to be able to recover it somewhat. Have to see as the Ferrari comes down towards turn 17. That's very deep, very aggressive into the corner, but he's still keeping on going. Doesn't look like a really good final sector though, I have to say. Now down towards the last two corners, fling it into 20, nicely done. And now down towards the final corner, taking up the curb, and both entry and apex, he goes up to P11. Could be a decent position for the race.
Now, I will have to report, Timon has invalidated his first run. He might just about to be able to get back over the line, but that's compromised his runs at this early stage. Carmenslist has got one kicked off though. He is now getting set out on the track. So we'll see what the rest of the grid can do. Larkin is just going to be one of the last cars over the line. He gets one kicked off. So we're going to start to see the influx of times then. So as the last car over the line is going to be Seb, the current professional pole setter. And he is just about going to make that then as Timon backing off a lot, heading towards the end of his lap. So now we're looking at times here coming in. It's going to be one of the McLarens who's furthest along. That's XL Sully, who of course been setting the timing screens alight, and he is very quick to the first two sectors. Takes a lot of curb over the inside. Lucky to get away with that, I think. XL Sully round the final corner, crosses the line fractionally. Second behind RTC, who still holds on to pole, but he's invalidated his final run, so you could say the door is possibly open. XL Gary now, he set a very nice time on the opening runs, and he's very quick as well to the first two sectors. 2/10 up, gets a little bit of understeer through turn 20. Now turn 21, attacking that curb on the entry and on the exit, crosses the line, goes fastest. XL Gary with a great last lap behind Carmenslist, and it's only 13th for XL Carmenslist, but he was quick to the first sectors. Maybe he's intended that. Timon is extremely quick to the first sector. We'll keep an eye on that. Kriko goes 5th then. As it stands, Larkin hasn't been able to get the most out of that final run, so he will be 4th at best. Seb is backed off. Does anyone have anything to give at the end of this session? Jekyll is very quick to the first two sectors, coming up to the line now. Could Jekyll get up the grid? Yes, he can. He goes 4th, 134.5. Is there anything left to give? We're going to have to keep our eyes, I think, on a QRT Timon, who's near the end of the lap then. Further ahead, that's Scream and the AlphaTauri. No improvement for him. Nathan JB behind Larkin. Seb, they've all backed off, so we all look. All eyes are turned to QRT Timon with the championship on the line. He doesn't get the best run, he backs off. Timon backs off. He is baiting that top 10. He's right in front of Carmentalist. So we're seeing the different approaches from the championship contenders. Gary with a cracking lap to put himself on that pole slot right at the death. Great stuff from Gary to snatch it from Seb and Sully. Well, that's a top 3 you'd probably expect from qualifying here. That is going to be it for this session. But in terms of that, we saw Timon back off, and I also assume, based on his first two sector times, unless he made a mistake, Carmenslist has done the same. They're going for that alt strat. Larkin though sticking it out, and in the top 5. I'll let you run through the results. Yeah,
Carmenslist did back off at the end of his lap. Managed to catch that just about. Yeah, Gary puts it on pole just ahead of Seb. 12,000 between them. Sully just in behind as well. Not a bad qualifying whatsoever there. Jacob 4th, Larkin, our first championship contender, he's in 5th. Peter's in 6th, and Kriko and Nathan JB on the 4th row. slashing the screen, rounding up the top 10. That's where it gets interesting, because then the free tire choice comes in. Ben JS for Zuidema, for Pika, for Timon and Carmenzel is obviously two to really watch out for. It's Matt Tibbles, Hardy, Funky Chicken, and Coxie will be rounding off the grid here tonight at Abu Dhabi.
Now, let's not forget here, with Larkin in P5, if he finishes there, it doesn't matter what where the other two finish. He does not win the championship, no matter what happens to the other two. So he is going to have to move up from that 5th spot. He knows that for sure. So he's going to go out there. We'll see if there's even a hope of rain. That's not going to happen, obviously, in Abu Dhabi, although it has happened in the past, I think, in league racing. But in this bone dry, well, almost bone dry D2 season, nothing comes of it in terms of the weather. So, again, two championship contenders starting near the back of the field. They didn't quite nail backing off, though. I think they didn't want to risk starting at the lower end of the top 10, so they are probably a few places lower than they'd like to be, which gives Larkin a good buffer, but he is the one that's down in the championship fight, and he has to make places. So we'll see him maybe going on the attack, but that alternate strategy could also come into play. But again, there's so many different circumstances, so many different ways this could play out. So as they set themselves onto the grid, we'll see if anyone is going to go bold on tyre choices outside of the top 10 as they get the formation laps kicked off. Looking at the tyre choices, nope, exactly as you'd expect. So we'll see how they go then, as the field, well, very evenly split between soft and medium runners, obviously. Timon and Carmenzel 14th and 15th. But, of course, the way those first few laps play out, those medium runners, the medium is a very good tyre here, even in the first stint, but the way the first few laps play off, they could either be detached, which will be great for Larkin, or they could stick right up with them, which, of course, would be great for Timon and Carmenzel. So, circumstances play into this quite a lot when the championship contenders, well, two of them are starting very far apart from the other.
And obviously, being that far down the grid, it is maybe easier to get some sort of damages, sort of collisions as well. There's a lot of pinching points here, especially coming down towards the first chicane of Sector 2, and the other two chicanes as well, actually. It's just, there's going to be a lot of action side by side, and if you get cut up a little bit wrong there, it's very easy to pick up some damage, and it could really ruin your race completely. In terms of the tires, as you said, the mediums are a very good tire to even start on. I think it'll take 2 or 3 laps for them to at least be equalized already with the soft, so it's just a matter if you can stick with that terrain for the first couple laps, and then it hopefully should swing in your advantage if you are on the mediums. The soft runners at the front, they'll be trying to break away. We'll have to see how that goes on.
It is worth noting here that XL Gary is on pole position now. As a bit of a critic here of Gary, he tends to take longer than most to settle into races. His pace in the first few laps isn't typically great. We'll see if he can hold the lead off the start. Sieb, Sully, Jaco joining him on the front 2 rows. They may have a chance, but it is a short run into turn 1. So Gary, you'd imagine, could be able to maintain that lead. We'll see. But yeah, Gary, typically one that struggles heading in the first few laps. We'll see what he can do as he hits the bollard actually to the final corner. So they come up to the grid now, and I haven't asked you for predictions all season, Verstappen, but just one simple answer. Who's the champion at the end of this race?
I'm going to say it's Commentalist. It has to be.
We'll see if Carmentelis can get it done then. Of course, championship leader heading into the race. He's led the championship most of the season after that great run of mid-season form. With that early to mid-season form that set him that lead. He got reeled in by the Alfa Romeos, but still on top heading in towards this final race. 3 drivers in contention for the title. 19 still on the grid, ready to contest a race win. Every single one of them wants to go out in a high. For the final race of the Division 2 season, we have 5 lights. And we're off the grid in Abu Dhabi. From the front of the grid, Gary gets a brilliant start, separates from Sieb. Sully up on the outside then, as Larkin at P5 holding station. Right wide there is Sully from turn 1. So Gary leads Sieb, Sully, as they all filter the way through then. It can be treacherous for these opening few corners and all the championship contenders in the same place they started right now. For the back of the field, we've got battling. Feater, who was seeing for the first time in a while, then sends it and pushes Creeko off the road. Creeko sending it back stuck on him as the Mentalist Timon battling away further down the order. They get past Zerima further back down the field. So Gary leads Sieb and Sully, and they're all scrapping away up and down the field then. Larkin pulls up and alongside Jekyll to the inside, and Sieb going at Gary for the lead. He goes at it into turn number 8, and they're wheel to wheel, they're banging wheels and nearly round. Sieb though snatches the front of the race from Gary. Jekyll, I think, has made a mistake or gone round. He recovers, but has dropped well down the field, and Larkin up to 4th. That puts him in provisional championship position at the moment. Kriko gets through on Peter again. He's 5th. Larkin a great start to 4th. Timon and Carmentalist. Timon has got through on Carmentalist after a big scrap involving Zaudema. Timon getting through on Carmentalist, but with that early move from Larkin on Jekyll, I'm not sure what happened with Jekyll in terms of contact, but Larkin going to P4 right now, the provisional champion.
Yeah, good start from Larkin, and a good start from Sieb as well. He's first. Carmentalist is dropping down a little bit. He's made a mistake, definitely. He's down into 18, 17 actually now. Yeah, Sieb has that gap to Gary. Gary's in. Gary must have damage.
Gary must have damage. I think Carmentalist may have damage as well. Yes, Carmentalist is into the pits at the end of the first lap. Now this sticks in motion. And is that Larkin? Larkin
is fun.
Larkin has gone round. Larkin, and he's got no wing. He's going to have to do the full lap with no wing. All of a sudden, 2 huge pieces of news in the championship fight. The pole setter slipping back. The championship leader going backwards. And the man that was starting the championship and the highest on the grid, I said he was provisional championship position. He's lost his wing. And now, doors have opened up for QRT Timon, who's running well back in the pack. But he is, at the moment, in with a good chance, and the alternate strategy runners have kept with the bulk of the soft train. The leaders have spread out, thanks mainly to Gary's damage. Sieb from Sully, from Kriko. There's big gaps between those guys, so we'll see how things are going to unfold. Benji S has made a great start. He tries to go 7th from That Scream. That Scream switches back, is going to get through. Wow, there's been a lot of excitement at the start of this race, and now Jekyll on the recovery goes up and alongside Benji S to the outside towards turn number 11. Benji S trying to stick it inside, won't make it though. Jekyll sweeps round to P number 8 on the road, gets that move done. We'll see how that's going to unfold. Benji S a little bit all over the road, and he's got Papirka all over him. In fact, does he have damage in the Haas? It looks like he's understeering throughout the track, and Papirka in the Ferrari goes through, but it looks as though Benji S, I'm just watching that car trying to get a good shot. Yeah, you can see clearly end plate missing, so Benji S, another driver with damage. Papirka's got a penalty. The alternate strategy runner is being massively held back here, which could play into the hands of Larkin and Carmentalist. Larkin has gone soft. I'm sorry, he hasn't pitted. He's going to have to put new tyres on. Carmentalist gone mediums. That's going to be a 2-stop, you'd suspect. Benji S is staying out. Verstappen, what on earth is going on out on track?
I'm trying to comprehend this, but there's a lot going on. Larkin has finally reached the pits now. He's in. I think Peter is out. He's crashed out of turn 3, very difficult corner, as I said, in the race. It can catch you out. Is it going to be anything brought out for it? Doesn't look like it at the moment. We keep on going as well. There's a bit of a timing glitch been going on as well, a bit annoying as well. Timon is just cruising right. He is in P11 at the moment, so he is in a favourable position, but he has to gain a little bit more to really benefit of Commentalist and Larkin's the pressure races so far. As Funky Chicken gets past Bench as well. Bench is, yeah, he definitely losing a lot of time with the damage, and that is going to be a recovery dive. You have to get that fixed surely in the pits.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So several drivers coming off. Wow, what a start to this race. It's just been dramatic all the way through. Gaps, well, predictably, really, have opened up throughout the field. Timon now, thanks to a couple of incidents, he now moves up. He's P11 at the moment, which provisionally is not enough. Carmentalist is provisional champion, but at the moment out of contention, and well, safety cars have been kind to him at times throughout the season. He may be praying for another. Timon can go to work, but a gap has opened up. Zaudema isn't quite with the train. Papirka's managed to stay with it, but you'd imagine quite soon the softs are going to go off. Sieb has managed to establish a gap. Sully is just about holding Kriko out of range, and Nathan JB is struggling to stay with it. So you know, the top guys are spreading out, but the rest of them are in range. And I think Timon, with that alternate strategy yet to really play into his hands, he may be licking his lips looking at that. There's a lot of drivers in front that he can try and take on later in the race. Oh, as I say that, he nearly goes round. And Nathan JB has gone round at turn 3. So another incident at turn 3, Nathan JB, and a gap has opened up now between Kriko and Slash. Kriko had just got to Sully. My oh my, what on earth is happening then? There's mistakes galore. Matt Tebos and Benji S to the pit lane. Timon now runs 10th and has a clear run at everyone else. And Timon has just watched everyone around him, basically, including the other two championship contenders, almost disintegrating, and it set him up beautifully later on in the race.
It definitely has, and he has to take advantage of this at this point in time. We'll have to see if he can be able to. One thing to note as well, Coxey from the back of the grid, he's up into P9, so he's had a great start there, although helped by the incidents, definitely. He's managed to get through there quite easily, and he's definitely been enjoying this one so far, I reckon. Have to see if he can maintain that going for the race. 2.2 between Seb and Sully now, and that just shows how good the pace of the Aston Martin currently is.
Yeah, he's fully controlling the race from the front. He just managed to break away early and, of course, was helped massively by Gary. But at the end of the day, he managed to get past Gary before everything kicked off. So it's all credit to Seb. And right now he leads by a good margin. Sully running second, and then it's the train. And they've all managed to come together. Zaudema has managed to close up behind now. So now it's from second downwards, as we have Nathan JB going round again down there at turn 19. He will recover the car, will the McLaren, after a bit of an awkward 3-point turn. He will get things going that well. You'd imagine he's going to pit for new tyres, having spun them up completely. So it will be an extra place for Car Mentalist and possibly Larkin. He does go to the pit lane, but those guys are going to have to make another stop. And really, you'd imagine only a safety car can pull them back into this race now at this stage. So I think Timon, who still isn't in championship possession but not far off, and Pa Perka in front does have a penalty. So provisional P9, that's 4 points. He needs only one more to take that provisional championship. Car Mentalist, as I say that, somehow is only a few places outside the points in this bizarre start to the race. But right now they're all managing to settle in. Kriko is up behind Sully, who doesn't seem to have the locked in, dialed in pace that he had at Interlagos, and he's starting to hold these guys up. Slash is looking all over Kriko. Kriko will respond to that. He's lower on batteries, Kriko. We haven't given much coverage to this battle near the front as well. Oh, hell has been breaking loose further back. 4.5 laps into the race right now. Timon, maybe there's some nerves creeping in though for Timon, because he's just about being detached. He's low on battery compared to these other guys. I'm not sure what's going on, but Timon, again, nerves can affect anyone, and Timon at the moment, he's managed to claw himself back in just about, but that one is a bit of a scary moment. He certainly does not want to be detached, but of course Timon, he knows he's in a great position here, but he's got to stay at it then. He's still got a job to do in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I just want to note as well, it'd be interesting to see what these guys that have got damage early on are going to do. I think it'll be very tight and it'll be quite slow, but there is a possibility he can make it to the end. But obviously that is not going to be ideal for them either way. It's going to be interesting to see if they can manage to crawl their way back. Maybe Gary has a shot at it. He's not too far off that train for now. Commentalist and Benji, Matt Tibbles, all those guys, they are a bit further down, so it'll be tough for them to do anything without a safety car. Have to see though, as Kriko is now getting very close to Sully, who's just losing more and more time to Seb, who's driving away very easily at the moment. Kriko opens his DRS and should get by the McLaren very easily. The question is, can Slash follow and maybe get a double overtake here? Can he get down the inside of Kriko, or is he too far back for that? No, he just about holds back behind the AlphaTauri, maybe towards the second DRS straight though. He gets a good exit on the back of the AlphaTauri, and it should be a fairly easy move. Overtake engage, DRS is open, and through goes to Williams into P2. Very well played. That was
great racecraft by Slash there. He didn't need to send the move, because he knows that DRS on the second straight, very, very powerful as well. He set him up nicely, got 2 overtakes done, and he's got some battery to use. Seb comparatively is very low, but Seb just has that buffer in terms of on-track position, so he's got to be feeling fairly comfortable right now, as Timon has managed to get himself back in. So is Hardy behind. Now these mediums now, you'd imagine now in terms of raw pace, have completely usurped the softs already at this stage, and now you can see Pa Perka is, well, sitting right on the rear wing of XLJ Cole, but at the moment I think he'll be happy to sit, and he knows how well this alternate strategy can work, and those guys can be a threat at the very least for P2, because, well, the soft train, thanks to, well, a litany of mistakes from drivers up in front and certain incidents as well, you know, things have really opened up for these guys now with simply less drivers in front of them. Slash, at the moment, no immediate impact on Sebe. He's still holding his battery back, so Sebe's still able to simply control the race. And really, he has some strategic flexibility. He can hold out for a few extra laps, still protect from that undercut. He has that buffer where he can just pit, still maintain the lead and have fresher tyres later on. So Sebe's in complete control as it stands, and just, yeah, managing to shut down the race as it stands, and at the moment no one else can make their way back in. This train fairly static at the moment. Timon, you can see he's running out of the slipstream. He's only got one car behind him, that's Hardy. He's sitting very comfortable, and and if I was timing in, you've got to play the waiting game here. You don't want to take too many risks, but well, you may not be able to get through now. The opportunities come later in the race on this strategy.
Yeah, definitely. So Peter has now left the session. Paprika gets a second time penalty there on the entry of turn 11, and that is definitely not going to help his chances later on in the race. 6 seconds of penalties is a deficit that's hard to overcome, even around a track like this where the gaps can spread, but they are not spreading right now. I have to say, Slash has picked up the pace fairly nicely. He's matching Sebe right now, and Kriko is basically struggling to stick with the Williams at the moment. So Slash is one to look out for. If he can get maybe a strategic undercut on Sebe, there's a possibility he could be in, as Exo Sully is the first one to pit.
Yeah, Sully looked to be struggling more than most on the soft, so it doesn't surprise me that he's come in. Jake will also win. So that Scream, the gap has just opened up to his teammate Kriko in front. We'll see how that's going to unfold. So Sully, Jekyll, and going to be mediums for both. They should go to the end of the race from here, unless they want to do a, rather aggressive two-stop strategy. Gary will come out just in front of those guys, and this is a decent indication here because, well, you're looking at them now. Sully, Jekyll, they emerge, and they are a decent margin in front of Car Mentalist. And, of course, Timon only a few seconds behind these guys. Of course, Car Mentalist and co, they do have slightly better tyres, so they can try and use that to their advantage to get up on Timon and co, especially as these guys are starting to be held up. Pirka is right on that Scream, deciding not to go for the move, actually giving the AlphaTauri a bit of a tap. This will hold back Timon, but Timon will have the tyre advantage later on, even if these guys decide to go for the one-stop. Larkin seems fairly out of contention at this stage, and Carmentalist a very slim chance. So let's see, as now that Scream under pressure, Pirka is just going to sweep down the inside, no contest. Through goes the Ferrari, back goes the AlphaTauri. A mistake though for Pirka, may just give it right back, and off the road almost that Scream. That Scream battling outside of turn 14. They both run wide, and Zanua is just going to slip right through, and they're all bunching up. Then Timon is watching on from behind, playing it cautious as Coxey slips through from that Scream, and Coxey there running wide through turn 17. I think Timon is not going to be happy about this. He wants this to continue on. He did the right thing, I think, by playing it safe, but still just sitting in there at the moment. He's now P8 on track, which would be enough for the championship, but of course we're seeing pit stops now from the race leader. Sebe comes in, Kriko comes in, Slash elects to stay out, and by saving his ERS as well as staying out longer, you sense that Slash, really, out of all these guys in the leading group, he's the one playing the long game, trying to give up that track position. He's being very cautious and safe early in the race, but we'll see if it pays off, because there's the risk here of losing track possession.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that's interesting, Kriko's pitted, so the Scream couldn't double stack. He's going to stay out, and Timon is going to have to get past him on track now. That'll be very difficult to do, especially if he got the nerves then. It's not going to help, and the Scream will be only trying to help his teammate, I think. Is he going to be able to get past Timon? Both of them using their ERS, both of them have DRS. Can the Alfa Romeo get past? He gets up and alongside, and the AlphaTauri is now derating, and I don't think there's any contest anymore. Timon is through, up at the P5, as Sedema gets past Pahaperka for P2 on track. Steve gets past Gary, so these two are very close together, actually. So if Gary can make these tyres last to the end, obviously they won't be in the best condition whatsoever. They'll be about 27 laps old. But there's a possibility he is still in contention for a decent spot here.
Now that you see that move for a time in there, it may not have looked that impressive in terms of the skill required to pull it off, but that was absolutely crucial that he got through quickly because he's still with this medium train and shadowing them all the way through. Now the question is, how is this alternate strategy going to work out? Slash out in front, you'd imagine the pit stop is going to come this lap, as well as that Scream, who suffered greatly in in the last couple of laps of this stint. Slash coming in, bit of an awkward pit entry from him, but he does manage to pull into the pits, and that Scream will follow. So those guys now all diving in hard. He may well have some separation to try and make up towards time, and it's very close, I think, for DRS. He's just over 1 second back, so he'll try and work his way in. Time and has decent battery at this stage, keeping up nicely at the moment, doing exactly what he needs to do. Is round Pirka, the Ferrari spearing right to turn 3. It's just a spin, no damage. He'll recover, but he goes round again, and the tyres have been lit up. Then he manages to keep it out of the wall, but having led that medium train, a mistake is going to set him back big time. So he will recover now. Well, the Ferrari, and what has been a mistake laden final race here. Everyone going off it. You can see there's no grip left in those tyres as he goes round again. That Screaming Coat will be able to get through. Luckily he was ghosted, because I think Carmentalus may well have speared him then. He has got Ben JS right behind him, as well as Matt Tibos. At this stage, those guys, of course, coming in very early for damage themselves. Carmental is running a few seconds shy of the main train, if you will. He doesn't want to lose too much time, as he may still have a fighting chance with Timon later on. As now Ben GS is going to pull to the inside, and Carmental has no interest in fighting that. But Ben GS was still hesitant, I think, to get through. And now Matt Tibos is going to try and follow through, and Carmental is using the battery. He's not going to allow that one to happen. So he maintains 14th, still out the points. Nathan JB has gone past Pirka, who, well, after a very promising start to the race, mistakes have really written into his day as it stands. So now things remain fairly static. Sieb has a good lead as it stands from Gary, and Gary's the real barometer here. Of course, he's made that huge undercut despite the damage. It's worked at the moment, and he's holding everyone back. Sully behind him, J. Cole, Creco, Slash just detached after the overcut, so he's lost a lot of ground. We'll see how these guys all unfold, but now with Gary looking to hold these guys up, it's only going to help Sieb unless the likes of Sully can get through quickly.
Just one thing to note as well, a pit stop here costs you about 20 to 21 seconds. The gap from Timon to Carmentalus is about 22, 23. With Carmentalus being on slightly fresher tyres, maybe helped by Ben JS, maybe carrying him along a little bit, who's on even fresher tyres, there could be very close proximity when the pit stop do actually happen, given that the intervals stay around the same as Coxie gets back past Timon now. He's back up at the P2, and that is, I don't know if that's going to help Timon or not. If they are going to fight a lot, it will definitely not. Sully is now looking for the move on Gary though.
Yeah, Sully is going to ease his way through, and that's going to be a simple move for the McLaren. It's critical for him to get past the car with the much older tyres. Jacob may well be frustrated by Gary, so this is a chance for Sully, who does look more promising, at least at the moment, on those medium tyres. Cox are getting through on Timon, and we saw Timon then. He completely backed out of it on the brakes. He's making no effort to fight here. His goal, as well as what should be Carmentalus' goal, is getting to that pit stop in the quickest possible time, not necessarily in the best position then. He has got to worry, of course, about making sure he doesn't have Carmentalist in his way at that stage, and making sure he can focus then with that alternate strategy of moving his way up. But he may well have to get past Carmentalist on track anyway, which could be very interesting. Timon may well have to make up some distance then on the Alpine then, the championship leader. So it's not over yet, but Timon running comfortably, but we see a few laps then when he does just drift away. He's taking it extremely cautiously, heading through turns 2 and 3 and nearly dropping out of DRS. He's managing to manage it fairly nicely as it stands right now, as he pushes hard, heading in to the chicane, but again hesitant on turn in, and he will just about hang on to DRS. The Timon is doing enough there, but he's wide, and you have to say, just by looking at him then, you know how nerves work, and you have to say Timon, he knows the position he's in, and he is driving very nervous at the moment.
Yeah, you have to say that he is feeling those nerves now crack up. And another thing, Gary is completely dropped off the back of Sully. Jacob's now going to get past him, and I think Creco will soon follow, so those tyres are already falling off the cliff for the Irishman. I said Creco does look for the inside, not going to go for it there. He might do it down towards turn 11, as Gary is out of ERS, as well as Creco has quite a bit still left. Slash in the back as well, Gary is just going to drop off of here.
Yeah, of course, then, with that tyre disadvantage. And of course, that's going to be the story with even these older tyres. Think about it. Timon may well come out behind Carmentelis, but Carmentelis with way, way older tyres. Creco, you can see actually making quite a major hitting the curb quite hard through turn 14. Slash, thinking about the outside, but you're not going to get through here. There's no question about that. Creco will cover that off. So he's delayed, and now Jaco has a chance of working his way up. And as these now, you'd say normal strat runners begin to get spaced out then thanks to Gary holding them up, what this is going to do is only going to help the old strat runners, because these guys, if they're not packed in a DRS train, just picking them off one by one is a lot easier than picking them off as a group.
Yeah, definitely. If the car ahead has DRS, it's very difficult to make a move. If it doesn't, just pass through on the straight. Yeah, it's nice as well. Zuiderma's pace is incredible at the moment. Still on those old mediums. He's known to be good on his tyres, and I think they're really coming down to life. And to say as well, Coxey's pace is almost just as impressive at the moment, as he's getting very close to dropping time. And I don't know how much on the limit he is driving at the moment. To say, yeah, Gary's just about got DRS, but he's outside the second window now. This is going to allow for Creco and Slash to maybe go for a move very soon. Actually, Slash is going to go for the move on Creco here. He's going down the inside of turn 8. Is he going to be able to pull that one off? I don't think Creco's fighting that one too much. And the Williams goes through into P10, and I think he'll be looking to get another position down towards the second straight. ERS is open. DRS open now. And this will be a fairly easy move, you'd imagine, as well for the Williams. And he is on a run going, because Jaco's just about ahead. He's not been able to pull away completely. And Slash is looking in a fairly decent position with his fresher tyres.
Slash has managed this race so incredibly well. In every wheel-to-wheel situation, he's managed to gain quite nicely and still keeping that battery. Jaco very low on battery. Slash, well, he did give up a lot of track possession to the pit stops because these guys are all very spaced out. With the better tyres and with more battery, he has an opportunity to just work his way up. And I don't think it's in Jaco's best interest to try and defend him, because really, you're not going to be able to hold him back. And Slash may be able to pull Jaco towards Sully. So we'll see how that's going to unfold. Seb is now starting to get held up, though. He's up behind that train. He's up behind Funky Chicken at the moment, trying to get through on the Mercedes. He's gonna take his time, of course. Oh, Funky Chicken gets out of shape through turn 3, and Seb just holds on to the car as we got yellows for the down the field. Sully's gone round. Sully, who's been so consistent in all the races so far this season, front wing off the McLaren, and he is gonna have to crawl just like Larkin did all the way back to the pit lane. So that is a major blow for Sully. Seb is going to get past Funky Chicken nicely on the straight, but Sully sets back, and that will make Seb's advantage even more dominant. Slash now up behind Jaco, and he can measure this yet again. Creco is going to cruise past Gary, get into P9 on the track. As Sully now backs off, that's another of those, normal strategy runners with a blow to their chances in this race. Slash is going to breeze through on Jaco here. Jaco not going to be able to fight that one too hard. So Slash now, you'd imagine his task for this race is trying to hunt down that 4.5 second gap to Seb in front. He has fresher tyres, he has more battery, but that is a big gap to make up, and Seb's pace so far has been impervious, so we'll see what Slash can do. Jaco in behind him. Matt Tibbles has gone past Carmentelis then, and Carmentelis with the older tyres has to let that one go. Benji S picks up a time penalty after what was looking like a fairly decent recovery drive. At the moment not going so well. He's managed to drop Carmentelis and Matt Tibbles. So those guys dropping back slightly. It's hard to really measure how this fight is going to end up in the long run, but Zuidema still leads, and you have to say, with all the mistakes we're seeing from all these guys, and Seb now getting held up badly, do not rule out Zuidema for getting a very great position in this race. If you can keep those tyres going, we're in the second half of the race now. The pit stops will be coming somewhat soon for these guys. You'd imagine Zuidema is in a wonderful spot here to move up nicely, as Sully has gone round again. I think he's just letting drivers through with that front wing actually, but he recovers, and yeah, it's a day to forget for the McLaren as well.
Definitely is. It was on for such a good race once again, but fortunately one mistake has caught him out completely. Now Seb is behind Hardy, and I don't think the Alpine is going to fight this too much. Ben Jess has gone round as well, turn 3. Don't know if he has any wing damage, just checking if Seb is getting this move done. Hardy is still alongside, but I don't think he's able to fight that too much, and Seb is up into P4. Timon is next, he makes a mistake, and I think the Aston is going to get through on the Alfa Romeo. Just about, is he going to be able to? He's trying to, not able to for now. doesn't have any ERS left. He's going to send it around the outside, late on the brakes, not able to get through. Timon holds on, and this is not going to help Sieb whatsoever.
Yeah, Timon's still defending it because he doesn't want to lose contact with Coxey. Coxey's been his guide throughout this race as Nathan JB slips past Larkin then. So far been a nightmare race for Larkin, but that spin early on after, well, looking like he could well end his race with a championship, and given how chaotic it's been for the rest of those normal strategy, those soft starters, really, you know, it does set him back quite a bit, and right now it's not looking likely for Larkin to win this championship, especially as he came into this race behind in the standings. Timon holding back Sieb. Oh, it's not a great exit for Timon, and Sieb ran into the back of him then. Heading out that final corner as Hardy's gone round, further down the order, recovers the car. Just about, but he's going to have to crawl around another lap. Gary comes in, so it looks as though he's committed to that two-stop car. Mental is still staying out. Sieb is right with Timon. Timon covering him off for the moment, and Sieb, I think, is just going to wait for the straight. Of course, Timon, it's not in his best interest at all for Sieb to get through at a point that's going to cost the Alfa Romeo time. Again, it's not possession for Timon, it's time that he needs to try and maximise at this stage in the race, but it is looking good for QRT Timon at the moment. But Sieb now, you'd imagine, with the battery and Timon opening and closing that DRS, he's not interested in fighting this at all, and he's just going to let Sieb go. But he's managed to pull that off in such a way he may be able to stay with these guys later on as Jacob slips past his teammate and is sticking with Slash quite nicely. Sieb, as it stands right now, actually, because of this hold up, Slash isn't far away, so he could maybe fancy his chances for the race victory. We will see as everyone sits nicely. Oh, Sieb nearly ran into the back of Coxey, and Timon again just backing off. He doesn't want to get involved in the fight at this stage. Hardy picked up a time penalty there. Timon now is outside of a second of Coxey, so he'll be hoping that Sieb gets past him in a way that Coxey gets held up, so we'll see how that's going to unfold. That scream has gone past Hardy, who of course, Hardy now with damage going off the road. Turn 3 has caught so many drivers out in this Grand Prix. Gary on fresh tyres moves up past Larkin, and round the Nathan JB off the track. Gary off the track recovers. Nathan JB is going to get back through as well. Larkin, and Larkin is losing needless time. Nathan JB just dives off the road inexplicably. Does he have damage? I'm not sure. And another twist in this bizarre championship finale. Larkin now heading the group after, well, being at the back of it just a few corners back. He's from Gary. Carmentless gets past his teammate, who of course with no wing is going to get his way back to the pit lane. Carmentless is now in the points. Slash now with Timon, and Timon predictably just lets him go and continuing to play it safe. But right now, safe is the answer for Timon, and with everyone around him failing and falling, it's still looking great for him because that alternate strategy could still play into his hands.
It could definitely, but with all these drives getting damaged, Sieb is getting past Coxey very easily now. This could also play in the hands of Carmentless once again, because obviously he's just going to benefit more and more of all the drivers falling back for the grid without any wing. And at this point, he's going to be a couple seconds ahead of Timon when he pits. Have to see if he can keep in mind, not for long probably, because the softs will be very good. And another thing, Slash is now about a second behind Sieb. He sees him right ahead, he just has to get past Coxey here.
Yeah, it's been a great charge here from Slash, and he has the better tyres, he has the battery advantage. Gary gets past Larkin, and that's important actually because he's a man that could be chasing down Carmentless with much better tyres. He's going to be one of the fastest men on track. Jacob gets past Timon, and again, Timon, by not fighting, he has actually managed to separate himself from Coxey, which maybe isn't what he wanted exactly, but again, he's playing it safe. And that's exactly what he really should be doing at this stage. It's been incredibly safe, but it could be a championship winning drive, but he is nowhere near the limit anywhere, avoiding penalties at all costs. He's taking pretty much zero risk, but when you're the championship favourite, you've got to. Funky checking goes in then at the end of lap 17, and of course he, well no, he didn't pit on the first lap, my apologies, but he's going to come in, get some fresh tyres on. That's the, well, really the start of that alt strat now starting to come into play. We'll see how he emerges, see how he filters out. The rest of them should be coming in fairly soon as Zoudema continues to just control this race from the front as it stands. I think getting the win may be a stretch too far, but Zoudema, you have to say a podium. It's not out of the question for the Red Bull in the slightest. The Slash is going to breeze past Coxey here. Sieb has managed to separate quite nicely from his rival at the moment at the front. Jaco is going to fly past Coxey as well, and he's stuck very nicely with Slash. Despite the lesser pace and the lesser battery, he's stuck with Slash very nicely through that traffic. Slash now from Jekyll. 2 seconds is the gap between first and second in terms of net possession. 10 laps to go. We'll save Slash and Jekyll. That looks like it could be a podium fight if they can work their way towards Sieve. Sieve has controlled this from the front, but the fight for the win definitely not over.
Definitely not, as obviously Slash's pace has been incredible so far. As Nathan JB gets past Larkin for P13, there might be some consolation points on for these guys. If a few mistakes creep in up ahead, doesn't look like it's happening so far though. And you can see also Commendless tyres are going off. They are obviously 15 laps old, it says on the graphic. It's going to be very hard to make this to the end, but let's see what he tries and do, if he's going to try that, as Zuidema goes into the pit from the lead of the race.
Yeah, so now we're going to see how this alternate strategy is going to work out. Coxey, Timon, they all come in. Timon continuing to shadow Coxey, a strategy that has worked very well, even on the pit lane entry. Remarkably cautious. Just playing it as safe as he possibly can, but the nerves are shot. Funky Chicken gets a penalty, which could actually benefit Timon, you'd think, as of course these guys are on the same strategy. We will see. Zuidema is going to re-emerge, back out on track. He's going to be right behind that screen by a couple of seconds. Now he's going to try and go on that charge towards the podium places. So you can see it's Sieb, Slash, Jaco, Creeko, then that scream, and Zuidema's going to start to give chase. They all actually filter out. Now Carmentalist is at the front of this train from Matt Tibbles. Coxey, Timon, Funky Chicken couldn't quite get the undercut on Timon. So Timon now, well, he's going to have to do this on track. It's a big lunge from Coxey on Matt Tibbles. Slots himself through, and Timon is going to follow right through. That's a great move from Timon, getting through nicely, following Coxey. And now Commensalist is going to do all he can to defend these guys off as we're looking at it. But you'd imagine now, Coxey is just going to light up the inside. Hesitates, doesn't go for the move. Timon was close to the rear wing of the Aston Martin, but he knows he can follow him through here. Commensalist is not going to be much resistance. Timon sitting with Coxey in front of him. Zuidema is going to cruise past that screen for the road, and Coxey and Timon are going to swamp Commensalist here. Commensalist just has no grip, he has nothing to fight, and that is now Timon. He has Commensalist behind him. Commensalist grabbing some points at this stage. He's still provisionally your champion, but with the lack of grip. And he has Funky Chicken, Matt Tibbles, and Gary, who just gets past Matt Tibbles. Those guys all have, well, Matt Tibbles has slightly better tyres. Funky Chicken, Gary, they have significantly better tyres, and Commensalist is just, you can see he's trying to get them to the end, but the tyres are just scrubbing, washing across the track surface. They're absolutely shot already. You can see how quickly these guys are pulled away. Now, what is Timon's potential for moving up here? He has got that scream a few seconds up the road. That won't be easy for him to get through. Coxey's right in front of him. Besides that, Timon probably can't get much higher than 7th in this race, but Commensalist, you'd imagine, can't finish any higher than 11th here. We will see if that is going to unfold, because I believe Timon finishing 7th in this race gives him 6 points. Commensalist finishing 11th would give him 2 points, so Commensalist would still hang on to it, but that is the best possible scenario for Commensalist at this stage. Gary's all over him. These two have been better rivals throughout the season, but Gary is just going to cruise on by here. And again, Commensalist, he knows he can't fight these guys now. Funky Chicken is going to follow through it. Timon past Coxey. So Timon gets the move done on Ariel Coxey down the straight. And now he knows this is when he's got to go on a charge. He's not in championship position yet, but he can hunt down that screen for it. And if he gets P6, that may well just do it. Coxey is going to fade it back, though, to the outside, in towards turn number 11, and Timon just going to let that one go. So Coxey sweeps through it to P7. These guys will both hunt down that screen. Funky Chicken has gone past Commensalist. Commensalist now with Matt Tibos on the back of him. In fact, Nathan JB and Larkin with slightly better tyres may be able to get past. In fact, Larkin has, I think, held on to his tyres slightly better than Commensalist has. He is struggling immensely, Commensalist, but if he can get P11, it does make Timon work for it, because he'd have to get P6 to wrap up the title.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, it's Commensalist is looking at a P11 here. That'll be 2 points. Timon, it'll be P6 or 7, and quite funnily enough, that'll be the difference between the championship or not for him. 6 or 8 points. He's 5 points behind. He would gain 4 or 6 on Commensalist. If it does stay like it is, Commensalist obviously has to hold off Matt Tibbles in that case. Because if Matt Tibbles gets past Commensalist, that means that Timon has enough with P7 on comeback. Yep. So, because obviously he does have a lot more race wins so far. So it'll be very interesting. So Coxey could potentially be the deciding factor in this.
Yeah, but again, also, Matt Tebos, on the other hand, could be the deciding factor. And Timon is using that battery. I think he knows the situation that he's in. And both these guys low battery. Timon gets through. And he has played that to perfection. Because now he has DRS off that scream. Now, can he get past that scream here? It may be unlikely on this straight, but he's certainly trying with battery. But that scream is going to use some of his own. Timon, though, can set this one up, and he's got to try and get it done in a way where Coxey does not quite follow him through. Coxey, I imagine, will be aware of that and try and stick with him. But that's going to be a battle to watch out for, and Timon, this championship, is going to play on his mind. We will see. Matt Tebos closing up. Both these guys saving their battery quite nicely, Carmentalist and Matt Tebos. One thing to mention as well, Nathan JB is catching these guys, so he could get in amongst it then and make things even more head-scratching for Ariel Carmentalist. Of course, some other car could come off the road. We've seen several spins throughout this race. Timon, though, sitting right with that scream. Coxey sitting very close, though, behind, and I think it's going to be difficult for Timon to get through without Coxey following him. But as I say that, he's going to go on the offensive towards turn number 1. He moves to the inside, doesn't give him much space, but Timon's going to get through the P6. And as it stands right now, Carmentalist paying, Matt Tebos follows him. Okay, well, those two are going to dive to the pit lane. Has Carmentalist, though, left his pits too late? We will see. Timon at the moment, then, your provisional D2 champion. And he leads from that scream on track, and that scream is losing time hand over fist. Coxey sends it inside. It's a tough move from Coxey, but he manages to muscle his way through past the AlphaTauri, and Zaunuma disconnects. Zaunuma out of the session. We'll see if he can get back in, but that is only going to help Timon even more as he can chase that gap back down. He's 6.5 seconds shy at the moment of the cars in front. I think that may rule that possibility out of getting towards Creco and co. Timon can work his way back towards it. We'll see if Zaunuma can get himself back in. Coxey is attacking Timon, and Timon has to play this carefully here. He doesn't want to get into too much of a scrap, and he does let Coxey go that time. But Carmentalist coming in. Larkin is sticking this one out in P12, but with his championship possession, the championship still looks very unlikely. The question is, though, Carmentalist, he can chase down his teammate Hardy, beat him. He can get to Larkin and maybe Nathan JB. So as it stands, actually, Carmentalist may well be able to get back to P11. But with the Zaunuma's disconnection, it's still up in the air.
It definitely is. And you say he can get back, but it is only 6.5 laps for him, for Carmentalist, to bridge about 15 seconds to Nathan JB. Obviously, he has a big tyre advantage, but it isn't the easiest thing. It isn't like it's definitely going to happen. I have to see if he's going to be able to. And at that point as well, we have to keep an eye on if Zaunuma does reconnect to the session. As he does get a penalty. That could even harm him even more.
Yeah, now you'd imagine with that time penalty, the championship is in Timon's hands. Now P7 is enough for him, and he doesn't have to fight Coxey anymore. We do have a car round though, and that's Nathan JB. Nathan JB is going to try and get that car back online. He will recover, and he's still in front of Hardy, Carmentalist, and Matt Tebos. But now Matt Tebos is jumping Carmentalist. As it stands, Gary moves past that scream. Gary is not that far behind, actually. Timon, his pace has been phenomenal, Gary, which makes it all the more unfortunate that he had damage on the first lap of the race. He's chasing down Timon, but in typical Gary fashion, very low on battery, as we're going to see swaps positions. That scream's going to come right back past Gary, actually, still fighting for that P8, and Carmentalist is going to ease past his teammate on the straight. So Carmentalist to P14. Actually, Hardy is going to fight it hard down the inside, and Carmentalist is not going to like that one bit. He does get the move done eventually, but Hardy is not letting this go, and he's using that battery down the straight with DRS, and he's coming back at Carmentalist here. So Hardy not lying down, accepting this. He's going to squeeze up and around the outside. Carmentalist sends it back on the brakes, and they come together, they touch, heading through turn 12, and Hardy has to get out of it. He fought Carmentalist though, tooth and nail for that position. Carmentalist now can try and slip past Nathan JB and maybe get a gap to Matt Tebos. That would set him into P12, but that is not enough, with Timon at the moment sitting fairly pretty in P7 and in full conservation mode then, staring down this Division 2 title. We haven't talked much on the leading fight. Matt Tebos, critically for him, gets past Hardy and that's going to be more frustration for Carmenslus. Carmenslus is going all out. He's going to look to the outside of Nathan JB towards turn 1. He's going to sweep through in a P12, and now he's got to try and push as hard as he can as Nathan JB tires are gone, but Matt Tibbles just follows right back through, and he's stuck with him. Gary this time will get past that scream. Timon and Coxey are fighting side by side. Timon taking a risk here, and he doesn't quite get through, but now we see Zaunova is just up the road, and Timon now on the offensive goes inside of Coxey, and he's gonna get through into position number 6, and Timon now staring down P5, surely with one hand on that championship trophy as it stands right now. So Kjartan Timon made the move on Coxey, and he's going to get past Zaunova here. Zaunova has not been able to get back in the session. The fight for the win, by the way, Slash is still right with Sebe, so that could be a fight right to the end between those two. By the way, we've got nearly 40 people in the stream. Thank you all very much for tuning into this one. They both now get around Zaunova, of course, so Timon is in the top 5 at this stage, and you have to think now at this stage, with Carmensla's penalty not able to shake Matt Tibbles, he's chasing down Larkin hand over fist, but Larkin could still get him with penalties regardless because of that gap. He's got a huge gap up ahead to that scream, so Carmensla's like in the best case scenario for him is P11, and for Timon, with Zaunova's disconnection, the worst case scenario, barring a mistake, is P6. So right now Timon has got this in his hands if he can just keep it on the road.
It does look very good for the Alfa Romeo then. And yeah, unless somehow he managed to maybe pick up a penalty and it lets Gary back in, and then Commentalis would have to get 3 seconds on Larkin. It's seeming less and less likely for the Alpine to beat the championship here tonight. We'll have to see though. Coxey is closing down on time. I don't think he's going to try it down here. He's waiting indeed for the next straight, and he's going to try and get this good exit out of turn number 9. Timon does get a decent exit, but I think the DRS will be enough for Coxey to maybe try and get back through, and just look like that. Timon is not looking to fight this too much, I think. And yeah, he does just back off and let the Aston Martin back through. He's back up to P6.
Yep, so through goes Coxey. Timon, though, will accept P6. He's still trying to fight Coxey, which, in my opinion, is a bit of a risk. Of course, he could just sit in behind, and the championship, as it stands, is his. Zaunova's disconnection is set him back. Timon running P6 right now, and just, yeah, cruising at the moment. 8 points is enough for Carmensla's currently not even getting a single point. There's yellows out on track. That's Ben JS, who's dumped it into the wall. Will now recover that Haas car, but again, he's going to have to do a full lap with no front wing. Yet another car to suffer that fate. Gary moves through on Zaunova. His pace has been electric in this final stint, Gary. It's just a shame that he did have that damage, because he's been so unbelievably quick, and I feel like he would have at least fought for the victory without the error. But in the end, that's racing. Mistakes happen, and circumstances can work against you. Funky Chicken now moves through on Zaunova as well, so he's now P8, and will try and establish a gap with penalties. Coxey from Timon, still keeping an eye on that. Timon still has to get this done, and Carmensla's gets past his championship rival Larkin. It's not been Larkin's day, and as it stands right now, it doesn't look to be Carmensla's day. He could try and get the gap to Matt Tibbles, but it's doubtful. He will currently sit in P12. Timon getting back past Coxey, and Coxey sending it round the outside, and Timon's got to be careful here, but he is going to be careful here. Just lets Coxey back through, doing exactly what he needs to do. He's playing the championship game, but he still seemingly wants P5, but of course, knowing compromises have to be made in terms of that on-track battle. He sits it behind, and Coxey runs 5th. Timon in 6th. Sebe and Slash not keeping an eye on, not looking away from this fight for the win. Those guys still running themselves out there on track. We're coming up to 2 laps to go, and for Kjartan Timon, the championship looks more and more likely. Zaunova back in, but out of contention. Runs in P9, but he may well be able to snatch P8 from Funky Chicken.
Yeah, I was thinking if Sediment doesn't get back in, there might be a chance he would not be classified, but I think now that is the that argument done. I was going to bring that up, so I'm just rejoining the session as I said that, so as I thought that anyway. So yeah, it does look more and more likely for Timon. 2 laps to go, he has to hold on, and let's see if he's going to be able to do so. Carmensla's just looking at the gaps as they re-establish themselves. It's looking very, very unlikely for the Alpine here to get through.
Yeah, of course, he needs really to have any chance. He needs to gap Matt Tibbles out of that penalty range. We'll get a reveal as they come over the line. I think he's got Matt Tibbles out of DRS range, So maybe there's a possibility for him to get P11, but that is as good as it's going to get, and Matt Tibbles still just 1.5 behind. Coxey from Timon. Timon, much higher battery, but he doesn't need this. He doesn't need this in the slightest. Larkin has come in, and something we haven't actually discussed is the fastest lap point, and I think Larkin is going to, at the very least, deny that from any other driver. Currently, that fastest lap point, I'm not entirely sure who it's in the hands of, but I think it may well actually be Carmentalist. So Carmentalist, actually, my scratch that is actually Zonema on a 136.9, just fractionally quicker. Sorry?
Well, Ben JS has the fastest lap, so no one would get the fastest lap point in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I have to see. As Funky Chicken goes for a move on Zonema, doesn't quite get to pull that off. But yeah, Carmentalist needs to gap Matt Tibbles to 3 seconds now. And he needs Gary to somehow catch Timon and overtake him in the next lap and a half, which is going to be very unlikely. And just coming up towards the final lap of the race, Seep and Slash, we haven't talked much about this, but they are 4 tenths apart. Is Slash going to be able to nab this victory off the Aston Martin now? I have to see coming down towards the final chicane, or the first chicane off the lap, and there are going to be 2 opportunities for the Williams to get through.
Yes, indeed. So Slash, I've said he has managed this race perfectly up to this point. Seeb has controlled it from the front. So let's see how this is going to unfold. Seeb with a great exit though off the hairpin of turn 5 and turn 7. Sorry, now Slash things just a bit more difficult for him to make up the distance, but of course he will have 2 bites of the cherry in terms of that DRS. Here comes Slash, but he's hesitating. He looks to the outside. Seeb, I think, wanted to let him through, but Slash has forced him into staying in front, and he set him up beautifully for the exit. Seeb with oversteer. Slash with more oversteer though. He makes the mistake, and that could set Seeb apart, but here comes Slash now for the race lead. Rounding outside, and he's going to clear it before they reach the corner. Slash to the race lead, and Timon has got through on Coxey at the death, looking now to stamp his authority on this championship, and he's got the battery to run away. And right now, Kiyoti Timon now. Everything has come together for the Alfa Romeo. Now we run towards the end. The other Alfa Romeo of Larkin is round, so his championship now firmly put in the gutter. It's not been his day at all. Slash now, the nerves creeping in for him. He's tried to resist. IRT Seeb all the way to the line. Seeb, can he send one at the death there? Slash is going to hold on, I think, we're in the final corner. If he can avoid a spin, Slash is going to take it. What a drive from TDG Slash. Seeb second, Jaco third. So XL Jaco rounds out our podium then. Creco fourth, and now to the final few corners. It's been a battle all season long, right at the death, but with a fearless drive, it is Kiyoti Timon who will wrap up surely the championship with a 5th place finish, and that is all he needs to do at the closing stages. P5 for Kiyoti Timon. Well to it. He was put through the ringers, a battle with Coxey, which in the end he prevailed in all race long, and he did exactly it. Carmentalist did gap Matt Tibbles just about, but P11 is good for 2 points. Timon's 10 points will mean he is your champion by a margin of 3 points in the end. So Kiyoti Timon has done it. Carmentalist in the end, damage on the first lap derailed his chances in the end, and a couple of spins for Larkin have derailed his chances as well. So now they will come to the line. Larkin and Nathan JB will round out the finishers. Nathan JB, to round off the season, gonna flick it round at the end of the race. So that is going to be it then for Season 7 of Division 2, and Nathan JB, I don't think even crossed the line in the end. So that's going to be it then. A great drive at the end from Slash. This is snatch it from Seeb on the final lap. Coxey given driver of the day. He had a great drive from the back of the field. They had to lose out on the last lap. But Kiyoti Timon did what he had to do. Well, everything crumbled around him. He kept it clean. And under such pressure, he got it done. And he has wrapped up the Division 2 title.
Yeah, very well. Congrats to him. He's driven exactly how he needed to drive this race with... after that first couple of laps where both his rivals came into trouble, and he has kept it safe and very clean, but he's managed to pull through with enough points to secure the championship.
In the end, he did. So that is going to be it for the season. Wow, it was, I wouldn't say an amazing season, a very unusual one in the end. in a championship where I think each of the drivers that fought for the title admit that they probably didn't deserve to win. But in the end, we can have a winner, and it was Kjorti Timon who got it done in the end after a very tense race for him. So, slasher race winner Sieb and Jekyll on the podium from Kriko. Timon gets the top 5 he needed in the end to wrap up the championship. Was assisted by quite a lot of mistakes throughout the race, but he didn't make those mistakes, and that's how he wrapped up that title in the end. Coxey P6, Gary P7, then Zerno Funky Chicken, Das Scream, Carmentalist. An unfortunate race for him. He did what he had to do in getting away from Matt Tebos, but ultimately it was down to Timon, and he won the championship by, well, if you look at it, a margin of 1.7 seconds. So Matt Tebos comes through in P12. Solly, again, mistakes for Solly. Larkin, Nathan JB, Hardy was 16th, then Ben GS, Pataperka, Peter rounds off the drivers that took part in today's race in what was a mistake-ridden race for most of the grid. I will ask you, by the way, we're going to have a 4-man interview for this race, but as maybe a bit unfortunate for the other podium guys, but I want a race winner slash in here, and I want the 3 championship contenders in here as well, if you can get that done.
Yeah, we'll do that. So, find out who you want exactly, because we don't have all the time in the world, obviously. Otherwise, we'd have had 6 people in here, but I think that's a little bit over the top. But yeah, we'll get Slash in, because obviously the race winner has to deserve a podium interview, and beyond that, the top 3 in the championship have been a very exciting season, and they definitely deserve a shout as well, and just try and invite these guys.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So we'll see how those guys are going to filter in. Just to calculate the standings at the end of the day for the top 3. So Timon finishes on 153 points, which I have to tell you, for a 17 race calendar, that is almost sad how low of a total that is. But at the end of the day, all you have to do is score more points than your adversaries, and he's done just that in the end. So Timon 153 finishes on, Carmentalist finishes on 150 points, and Larkin finishes on 138 points. Great battle between those 3 throughout the season in the end, and we'll hear from those guys as well, along with our race winner, who I have to say was one of these smart, from a man that typically tends to, if he doesn't mind me saying, typically makes mistakes in races. He managed that race to absolute perfection, and he finishes his season off on a great note with a 2nd and a 1st to cap off his campaign in the final 2 races. So hopefully we can get these guys in for interviews. As I mentioned, it's going to be a group of 4 that we're going to hear from. But to cap things off, I guess coming to you, Verstappen, then, after watching these 17 races, just how do you evaluate this season?
Honestly, it's been so chaotic. Obviously, from the start, we had to really win a couple races, then getting moved up to D1. And beyond that, it became very, very chaotic with different race winners of the race. I think we got about 10 or 11 race winners this season. And of course, these 3 guys in the end managed to make this very, very entertaining. And obviously, beyond that as well, a lot of entertainment's been done. Sometimes in the right way, sometimes in a less clean way, to say it the least. But it was definitely great to watch.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I know that viewing numbers do tend to dip quite substantially during podium interviews, but if I ask you lot to stick around, because we do have something special to say at the end of the stream, there's no doubt about that. So I guess we'll get this kicked off. What we'll do here, because we have 4 drivers, I think we can get away with asking just maybe I'll just ask 1 or 2 questions, and you can do your follow-up. Just keep it a little bit shorter and sweeter than usual. We'll start with our race winner for today, TDG Slash. Well, I have to say, in a season that has been very chaotic, I've seen a lot of incident. Probably not of races where I've seen a driver manage a race absolutely perfectly, which you did all the way through that. Just talk your way through the race and how you manage yourself through, because it looked to me as though in every situation you came out with the best possible result.
Yeah. To be fair, when I was like in like qualifying, I was P9. I wanted to be in P11 at the time because the medium soft was like an OP strat, but alas, I got P9. And then on the start, I knew I had like the pace to be right in front of the leaders because I backed off massively on my bank lap. So when I got up to everyone, like I was just trying to control my EOS to make someone make people in front of me make mistakes, and then just catch up more closely with them using their EOS, of course, which worked. And then the end of sector 2, the straight, I think that was where the most of the moves I made, because I always like switch back, like sort of switch back on them to get them a poor exit, and then I get a good exit. So it worked really well most of the time. And then Seb was like the hardest person like to catch up because he had like amazing pace. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you managed to pull it out in the end with a last lap move for the victory. That means that after, well, probably not the smoothest season for yourself, you finish off on a fantastic note with a win and a second place finish in the final 2 races. Just how does it feel to end your season that well, which hasn't gone that well for you in general, and what does this say for you going forward, as I'm hoping you're going to come back for the next game anyway?
I think it's a little redemption for the last 5 races before Brazil, so it's good to get a win in P2. And I know next season, if I get a full-time seat, hopefully, I'm going to be on no assist, so I don't know if I'll be still in Division 2. I hope I'll be, but if I'm in Division 2, then I expect myself to be like right in the mid-pack, not in the front, until maybe the season after. But yeah, and also I just want to congrats Diamond on the championship. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but yeah, you were the fastest out of everyone in here, so you deserve it, man.
Thank you.
Yep, great to see. Handing over to you, Verstappen. You got any questions for our race winner today?
Not really. I just want to congratulate you on the win. I do also want to give you some credit to the racecraft I've seen from you today. It was absolutely great to watch you set up the moves in the places where you needed them to, and absolutely nail down, and including obviously the one in the final lap to give you the race win. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Slash. Now, just a quick question for Verstappen. Is it, do we actually have every single one of the championship contenders in this party right now?
We don't have Commentalist, unfortunately. He's not agreed to join. So keep it to this, I reckon.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So I guess we'll hear now from our third place finisher in the championship, XL Larkin. Now, I know this race didn't work out the way that you expected to or hoped to after, well, a fairly solid qualifying. Just what was the issue then? Because it seemed like turn 3 was what was causing you problems today.
Yeah, firstly, congratulations to Diamond on the title. I think he was the quickest guy in the division, so it's a well-deserved championship for him. I did one practice quali session about 10 minutes before the race, so I probably got what I deserved. And then ended up doing a decent lap in quali. And then in the race, lap 1 or 2 or whatever, it was coming around the final corner that I spun, which isn't a place that I thought I would spin, and I didn't have any other issues there for the rest of the race. Going into the race, obviously being in third place, I didn't really have any expectations. I was expecting to have a decent race and just coming behind one of these guys, but knowing that after quali, if I'd have just driven a normal race, I could have won the championship. It's really, really gutting.
Yeah, it will be. In the end, I guess the elephants didn't quite. Just looking through on the season as a whole, I mean, I know that I don't think that any of you that fought for the championship, I think you'd even admit, none of you have had a good season. But how do you look back on this championship campaign? Because, well, you looked down and out at the first half of the season, but you ended up coming through and making a good fight of it at the end. How do you look back on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like I'm not one of the people that's gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, that was horrible, I hated every second, like some people are in the Discord. Like, I have enjoyed it. It's just been a season of ups and downs. I look at my results at some of the tracks, and I got 1 point in Brazil, 4 points in China, 0 points in Portugal, 0 in Britain, and they're tracks that as a pad ABS driver I should have done fairly well at. So it could have been so much better, but I know there's probably about 10 drivers that are thinking the same thing.
I'd actually go as far as saying the entire grid is thinking the same thing. There's a lot thrown away by a lot of the grid, I think. Heading to you, Verstappen, you got any questions for our third place man in the championship?
At least want to congratulate you on the third place. You still did well this season. Did you ever think after that first lap, or whenever you spun, did you ever think there was a way back into the race and for you to win the championship?
I didn't think it was impossible. I was deliberately just driving super slow, not getting any warnings for the whole race, so my pace probably looked terrible on the stream. But I knew I think Car Mentalist started mediums and pitted for mediums after lap 1. Obviously Thyman was on mediums, so I knew if a safety car came out sort of in that middle part of the race, then it would screw them over a little bit with strategy and I'd stand a chance. But typically it was the 1D2 race of the season where we didn't get a safety car.
Yeah, a bit of irony in the final race, it must be said. Congratulations, though, on a great season. Of course, the final race, not what you were hoping or expecting, but still a very commendable campaign.
Thank you very much.
Yep, to give you a very nice finishing position in the standings.
Thanks to both of you guys for doing the commentary all season as well. It's much appreciated.
Been an absolute pleasure, my friend. So now, I know we've kept you waiting a little bit, but we're gonna now head towards our season champion for Season 7, Division 2. He'll be added to the Wall of Champions, the Hall of Fame in League of Europe. It is Kjarti Thyman, my friend. Well, in the end, everyone around you sort of imploded in the race. You managed to keep your head just about. Just what are the emotions right now?
I mean, Larkin and Gometas both got damaged lap 1, and from that point it was a fairly easy race. I remained strangely in control of myself. I was very calm the whole race, and I think Montana at the end was more excited than I was. Which I didn't have any shaking or nothing. I was really happy knowing that Carmentalist needed 2 guys to DNF from the final lap and to make an overtake still, which was possible, to get the championship. And then if I made an overtake, he had to have 4 DNFs. So I felt really safe because I had such a big margin. So I mean, in the end, there's some emotions, of course. I'm happy to have won it, and it's probably the only driver title I'll win in League of Europe, unless I'll win D1 or I do something really crazy and go back to D2, which hopefully it doesn't happen again soon.
Well, of course, we were talking about possibly promoting you at the start of this season, but you gave a great excuse in the end. It came through when it mattered most at the end of the season. Just run us through the race itself, because, well, it seemed very undramatic. We did see a few times you did seem to be driving extremely cautiously, which is fair enough. I mean, that's exactly what I'd be doing in that position. Are you sure when you say there were absolutely zero nerves throughout the entire race? I mean, you say you were calm, but we did see a few hairy moments throughout that race where you were just easing off a little bit, but in the end it all came good.
I mean, just making sure I didn't get any damage. When we got the soft trainers, the medium runners, we kept braking so early and it just lifted. The gap went to 8 tenths and I was just lifting and just rolling back through and behind them again with 3 tenths. So the train was going very slow, and I took extreme precaution there. And because I think it really helped at any point knowing I don't have to push. And we could have had a safety car then. A lot could have happened, and I was just worried for a safety car, but somehow no one binned it in turn 3, which I'm happy about. I lifted every single lap through turn 3. Because I knew my setup was extremely unstable. Any curb and I was gone. And also in quali I bubbled quite a bit. But of course I wanted to ult strat, which in the end worked very well.
Yeah, certainly did in the end, and of course you gave us some entertainment with that battle with Coxey as well at the end of the race. Verstappen, you got anything to add for our champion for this season?
First of all, congratulations on the championship. You absolutely deserved it, more than anyone, I think. And yeah, came home and done that well. Beyond that, I think the biggest question I have is more of a specific moment during the race where you were fighting Coxey. Was that ever your attention, or did you think, were you ever worried that he was going to hold you up or anything like that?
I knew I could have gone a lot quicker at any moment. I was happy to sit behind Coxey because there was no one ahead of us to really catch, and behind us the gap was 3 seconds, so it was just really controlled. But at some occasion I just opened the DRS and it didn't burn anything. I just drove past and he went back the other time. And normally he lifted, but a few times we went side by side, and when that happened I just pretty much gave him the corner and didn't really fight it at all. I mean, in the final lap I did burn quite a bit, and he decided he wanted DRS on the final straight, and with 40% DRS I was easily able to hold him off. But I think I wasn't scared at any point. I was very controlled in doing it, and I just not taking any risks was really important this race.
Well, massive congratulations on a great season and a great championship. Thank you very much for that. Well, in terms of the on-track action, you've heard from two of our championship contenders, and of course our race winner Slash here today. I think that is going to be near enough for everything, but before we do go off, I do have something to say. Billy was obsessed with tractors. He grew up on a farm, and ever since the very first moment he laid eyes on a tractor, he thought they were the most beautiful things he'd ever seen. His parents would take him for rides through the fields on their tractor and started buying him toy tractors to play with. As he grew up, he drew pictures of tractors all the time, and collected photos of rare tractors and put it up in his bedroom. He bought tractor magazines and joined the tractor fan club, and spent any spare pocket money on building model tractors. He was the biggest fan of tractors the world had ever seen. His parents worried a little as his obsession grew, but it didn't seem to be harming anyone, so they let it run its course. He'll grow out of it in a year or two, they told each other. But he didn't, and soon he had started school. Billy was a gifted... Hey, this is very serious, okay? Don't interrupt me here. Billy was a gifted kid, but it soon became obvious that his obsession with tractors was making it hard for him to make friends. The few kids that tried to hang out with him got bored of talking about tractors, and it seemed Billy talked of little else. Billy grew lonely and started to realise this love for tractors might be better hidden from the world. So when Billy started high school, he thought of it as a fresh new start. He tried his best to keep his tractor love hidden from his schoolmates, and only indulged in his obsessive tractor fandom at home or reading tractor magazines in the school toilets. He got great marks and seemed especially gifted at mechanical subjects and agriculture. His knowledge of tractors and how they worked held him in good stead. In fact, Billy became quite popular and made a lot of good friends, and he hardly talked about tractors with them at all. At the beginning of 10th grade, Billy fell in love with a girl called Monica. Monica had beautiful dark brown hair and round braces that looked almost like little tractor wheels. Billy and Monica started holding hands in school, and then kissing occasionally between classes, and eventually Billy asked her to come over to his parents' farm and meet his family. So Monica came round one afternoon after school and met Billy's lovely parents and had a lot of fun roaming around the farm. Billy could not have been happier, and all was going well until Monica asked Billy to see his room. "I don't think that's a good idea," said Billy, but Monica only laughed and would not be swayed, and playfully she ran past Billy up the hall to his bedroom door and opened it. As the door creaked open, Monica let out a horrible scream, and after recoiling for a moment ran out of the house and all the way home. Inside the room was a vision of a madman. Tractors everywhere, from posters of tractors on every piece of wall, to tractor quilts, to thousands of model tractors on every available surface. The room was too much for Monica to deal with. She was absolutely freaked out. Billy was distraught. He cried and cursed his love of tractors. He flew into a rage, realising that his obsession with tractors had to stop. He pulled down the tractor posters and broke apart his tractor-shaped bed. He piled them outside with his tractor toys and models, his tractor magazines and books, his tractor fan club membership cards, and his used tractor parts. He flew around the room, gathering up every last tractor-related item until the room was nearly bare, and then it was all in the huge pile outside. He lit it all on fire. His parents came out and put a hand on his shoulder as he watched it burn. They knew it was good for him. Billy went back to school, and although Monica would not talk to him, he was able to move on with his life. He soon graduated and went to college, deciding to study finance, about as untractor-like a subject as possible. Still, sometimes he daydreamed and had to force himself not to draw tractors absent-mindedly in the margins of his books. It worked. By the second year of college, Billy was entirely normal, and had even met a wonderful girl called Chloe. He had met Chloe through his new best friend Steve, who was training to be a chef, and soon Billy and Chloe were dating. Billy and Chloe would go on double dates with Steve and his girlfriend Alison, and eventually started going travelling too. They were very much in love. In fact, they were so in love that 6 months later, after returning from a trip to Japan, Billy proposed to Chloe at the new restaurant Steve had just opened, and like that, they were engaged to be married. Chloe came from a wealthy family, and as soon as her parents heard the news, they insisted on a huge white wedding. They hired a beautiful white painted hall, and Chloe's mum had become involved in picking every single thing for the wedding, from white tablecloths to a huge, towering white cake, and of course, most important, a beautiful flowing white wedding dress. Billy's parents were a little overwhelmed by the excess, being used to their humble farm, but Billy was a wonderful son and kept them looked after during the long preparations and rehearsals. Steve's restaurant was being very successful, so Billy got him to cater the wedding feast, and before anyone knew it, the day of the wedding was upon them. There was a huge hustle and bustle of frantic activity on the morning of the special day, and everything seemed to be going perfectly. Unfortunately, Steve's girlfriend Alison had chosen that morning to break up with him, and he was distraught. Yet he knew he must pull it together if he was going to cook the feast for his best friend's wedding, but he was in such a bad way that he started drinking from the cooking sherry, and had soon drunk enough he passed out in the kitchen. But the stovetop had been left on, and soon all the food was burning, and a fire started blazing. It was only an hour out from the wedding, and everyone was so busy with wedding tasks that it took them some minutes to notice, but with a shout from a groomsman, everyone saw the fire and rushed to save Steve from inside the kitchen. Smoke and ash billowed out through the door and into the hall. Billy and his friends quickly managed to put out the fire, but when the danger was gone, Billy walked out into a hole that had become a disaster zone. Soot covered all the beautiful white tablecloths, and the hall was full of smoke. Chloe's mum was in hysterics, screaming that the wedding was ruined, and Chloe herself, the beautiful bride, was crying uncontrollably in a beautiful white wedding dress covered in ash. Billy looked around the hall and knew he had to do something. "I can fix this!" he yelled. Everyone stopped their shouting and watched as Billy, the soon-to-be groom, strode over and opened the biggest window. "There's only one thing for it," he thought to himself. He opened his mouth as wide as it can go and started sucking up all the smoke. Whoosh! It was sucked into his lungs, and he went to the window and blew it all back out into the world. Again and again. He sucked up all the ash from the cake and all the smoke left in the hall and blew it out the air out the window. Finally, as the rest of the wedding party looked up incredulously, mouths agape, he went over to his Chloe and whoosh, sucked up all the ash from her wedding dress. After one final trip to the window to blow the last smoke and soot into the outside air, Billy turned to see the hall sparkling in white. The wedding was saved, but the wedding party were astonished. Billy's mum was looking faint, and his parents were astounded by their son. But Billy only had eyes for his future wife, and walked over to where she was standing with a very confused look on her face. "Billy, how the hell did you do that?" she asked, shocked. Billy got down on one knee, and looking up at his love, he said, "Chloe, there's something about me you should know. I'm an X-Tractor fan."
I'd like to thank
I'm sorry, I missed it. Can you repeat that?
I can't believe that's the last thing you're going to do after how many years of and I just sat and listened to all of it.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good punchline though, wasn't it?
It was, but I think I've heard the joke somewhere before in a shortened version, but
we don't say that. We don't mention that.
Well, yeah.
I rate it.
As Larkin may have alluded to there, this is the last one for me. It's been 6 full seasons pretty much of commentating on League of Europe now, and it has been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed every second of it all the way through. There's been some incredible moments that I've been able to cover. here in League of Europe, and I could not be happy to share it could not be happier to share it with a better league. It was just incredible to be a part of, and yeah, I've had a great time. I'm struggling to find the words at this stage. I suppose now, with just about, well, everything said and done for the season and everything, yeah, I think that's going to be just about it. So, as always, thank you all very much for tuning in. I appreciate every last one of you, and of course, extra credit if you managed to sit through that joke at the end. But thank you all very much for watching. For myself, Verstappen, and all the great drivers that have joined us in the box, and all the great drivers that have put on our show throughout this season, is going to be it for me. So, with just about everything said and done, it is goodbye for now, and until next season with a different voice, it is me, myself, signing off. Goodbye.